Madden NFL 23 is in many ways a return to the earliest days of the series. As the first entry in more than 20 years to feature the late John Madden on its cover, it goes back to the sports simulation fundamentals that the iconic coach valued so much. It's not quite the equivalent of the Bengals going from the basement to the Super Bowl, but it's definitely a step up from last year's disappointing version and a respectable rebuilding effort for a series that has consistently lagged behind its competitors. First, a quick note about the different versions of Madden 23. This review is based on the Xbox Series X version, which is the same as the PS5 version, but the PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions are behind the times and don't include a lot of the new features. So bear that in mind when choosing which platform to play on. On current-gen consoles, Madden 23 is a consciously stripped-down experience that comes off of 2 disappointing years in a row by focusing the bulk of its resources on refining the action on the field, leaving things like commentary and graphical quality largely unchanged. The result feels immediately more nuanced, more polished, and more enjoyable than Madden 22's often ramshackle gameplay. These improvements are intended to offer a far greater degree of control over your players, which is evident in how much more smoothly they move in this year's version. When you first start playing, you're treated to a Madden Legacy game, an exhibition game between historic NFL stars that doubles as an NFL history lesson. That's a sweet note to open on, and it goes so far as to recreate the original Oakland Coliseum from the 1970s. And in its own way, the rest of the package is a tribute to John Madden as well, focusing on the less flashy simulation aspects that he valued so highly. Along those lines, Madden 23 is filled with the sort of updates that are felt rather than seen, including balance refinements, smarter AI, and other improvements that are rarely obvious on the screen, but nevertheless make a difference to how it plays. The most conspicuous of these additions is the refined passing controls, which combine with an accuracy meter to offer more control when putting the ball in tight windows. It especially makes a difference along the sidelines and in the end zone, where space is at a premium. On top of that, the defense is far smarter than before, making this one of the most challenging Maddens in recent memory. It all adds up to an experience that's noticeably more refined. Sure, we're already seeing random bugs posted to social media that prove EA still has plenty of work to do. In fact, here's one of our own from the glitch-filled opening of Face of the Franchise.
Hey, sorry to keep you waiting, man. I'm trying to take care of my people.
But the action on the field is still a fair sight better than last year. Is that damning with faint praise given the state that Madden 22 launched in? Maybe, but you have to start somewhere. One of the other biggest changes this year is in Face of the Franchise, which has come to symbolize many of Madden's struggles. Hyped as a kind of story mode in which you live out the fantasy of being drafted into the NFL, its previous iterations have been undercut by bugs, poor design decisions, and other issues. In last year's review, we had to wonder what exactly the point of the mode was, given that it didn't offer much in the way of wish fulfillment while barely having any connection to core modes like Franchise and Ultimate Team. In essence, it was a dead end. Apparently recognizing this, EA has effectively rebooted Face of the Franchise, heavily scaling back the cutscenes in favor of a simple but satisfying week-to-week routine of picking your schedule, upgrading your character, and playing out your games. It's still the most fun to be a quarterback, but you can play as a receiver, running back, or defender as well. The story, such as it is, follows your avatar as they try to get a fresh start with a new NFL team, but the real goal is to grind your way into the so-called 99 Club. While it's certainly an improvement though, it continues to lag far behind equivalent modes in MLB The Show and NBA 2K. For example, there just isn't anything resembling realistic feedback. Throw 5 interceptions in Face of the Franchise, and you're still a burgeoning star. Throw 5 picks in the actual NFL, and you're probably getting traded to the Jets on Tuesday. Still, like so much of the rest of Madden 23, it establishes a decent baseline for future iterations. Even on its best days, Madden 23 is still Madden. Witness the new free agency mechanics in franchise mode, which introduce motivations for signing with a team like warm weather and Super Bowl contender. They're a smart addition on the face of it, adding a layer of depth without unnecessary complexity, or so it seems. The problem is that the CPU isn't equipped to handle these new systems, resulting in an unbelievable number of top players hitting the market. These sorts of unintended problems tend to happen a lot in Madden, and they often take months to fix. That said, franchise mode has definitely been better since the community basically shamed EA into devoting resources to it, but at the same time, its unsteady Jenga tower of systems always feels on the verge of falling apart at any moment. Its main strength is its consistent support of full 32-player leagues going back to 2009, and more recently, its little story events and dynamic player growth. Meanwhile, Ultimate Team mainly takes a back seat to Madden's career modes this year, with most of its updates being focused around balance changes to existing elements like strategy items, power-ups, and rewards. As always, Ultimate Team's off-putting reliance on loot box mechanics will make sure it's controversial no matter how balanced it might be, but its overwhelming popularity also makes it an unavoidable part of Madden's culture. As for The Yard and Superstar KO, they've basically been shoved into the back of the closet. Both modes are still present in Madden 23, but their lack of attention makes them feel forgotten. This is nothing new for Madden, which has seen many once-hyped ideas come and go over the years. If there's a positive spin to put on this, it's that EA seems to be taking a more focused approach with this year's version, rather than trying to spread itself too thin across too many modes. This is hardly the first time that EA has gone back to basics with Madden, but rarely has it felt so needed as it does now. After all, Madden's core issues over the years hasn't been its franchise mode, nor has it been its weird bugs and lack of polish. When fans pined for the days of Madden NFL 2005 and NFL Blitz, or complained about franchise mode, what they were really saying was that Madden just wasn't that fun to play. But playing Madden 23, it's impressive how some targeted improvements can uplift the entire experience, and it's reassuring that EA has been able to zero in on small things that can improve the gameplay, instead of continuing to swing and miss by bolting on big new modes that are all undermined by the same issues. John Madden definitely wasn't wrong when he insisted that the series focus on getting the simulation right first. Madden fans will tell you that it hasn't been a great decade for EA's football sim. Like the NFL itself, the profits have continued to grow, but the product has suffered. Madden NFL 23, though, provides a glimpse of a light at the end of the tunnel with a handful of smart enhancements to animations, AI, and passing mechanics that make subtle but meaningful improvements to the moment-to-moment football on the field. To be clear, Madden still has a long way to go to catch up with other sports sims, the majority of which are more refined, less buggy, and have a clearer identity than EA's flagship football sim. But after playing Madden NFL 23, there's finally reason to have a little optimism that it's on the right path, maybe not an emphatic boom, but clear forward progress for a series that so desperately needs it. For more sports games, check out our reviews of F1 22 and MLB The Show 22. And for everything else, stick with IGN.